The second breakup was the real one. Actually, it was the third. People often imagine that a relationship ends once. A clean moment. A single turning point. What happened between May 2022 and January 2024 showed a very different truth. This period exposed the mechanics of identity change under coaching ideology. It revealed what happens when a person's mindset races ahead, while their emotional world struggles to keep up. It showed how an echo chamber of coaching, manifesting, and self-reinvention can produce contradictions, instability, and eventually erasure. This was not the first collapse. It was the quieter one. The slow disintegration that followed the dramatic events of 2021. It is the collapse that exposes what the ideology actually does to a person. The timeline speaks for itself. These were the months dominated by wild oscillation. Warm one moment, distant the next. Confessions followed by denial. Connection followed by disappearance. Her new identity was sprinting forward, while her emotional self remained tied to the life we had lived. Coaching ideology promised instant transformation. Neurolinguistic programming, neurosemantics, and integral leadership all promote rapid reinvention, collapsing stories, and becoming a new self through mindset shifts. None of it permits emotional lag. None of it respects doubt or ambivalence. Inside that worldview, hesitation is framed as resistance and guilt is framed as an outdated narrative. When someone absorbs that mindset, they begin to behave at a pace the human heart cannot sustain. That is the lens needed to understand the second breakup. The collision of two selves. By May 2022, her internal world had split in two. The coaching-shaped mindset was racing ahead, convinced she needed to recreate her life. Her emotional world was still tied to our history and the quiet familiarity of the life we had shared. The ideology treated that emotional reality as a limitation, not something to honor. This is why May became so revealing. We slept together. She left to shower and change, then returned later that same day to watch the football with me. She sat beside me and admitted she was confused, and told me she still had feelings. Those words were genuine in that moment. Emotion moves slowly and honestly. It tells the truth even when the cognitive self is trying to escape. Only weeks later, when I reminded her she had said those things, she denied it. She claimed I had heard what I wanted to hear. That reversal was not random. It was a cognitive override. Her newly adopted identity could not tolerate the contradiction. The moment conflicted with the story she needed to maintain, so she rewrote it instantly. This is what happens when mindset changes far faster than emotion. The cognitive self begins erasing anything that exposes the gap. The pattern of oscillation. The months prior was a cycle of opposites. Warm interactions followed by sudden coldness. Genuine connection followed by abrupt withdrawal. She reached out when she needed safety, then recoiled when the ideology demanded she push forward. I need to be honest about my own part in this phase, because my behavior was shaped directly by the signals she continued to give. I held on because the signs did not point to a clean break. The way she acted, the time she spent with me, the intimacy that continued between us, and the moments where she admitted her confusion all told me the door was not fully closed. She came back into the house. She sat beside me watching football. She reached for the familiar comfort of the life we had. None of it matched the story she eventually told herself. Those mixed messages broke me down more than the original affair. I developed agoraphobia during this period, and the cause was simple. I could not explain to anyone what was actually happening behind the scenes. How could I tell people she had started this collapse with an affair, yet here we were still sleeping together, still spending time together, still acting like there was something worth salvaging? If I had spoken openly, any small hope would have been destroyed immediately. I felt trapped in a silence that protected the tiny little glimmers of hope her actions continued to feed. It was an impossible bind. Speak the truth and lose her forever. Say nothing and lose myself. Hard when she was living within an echo chamber of Shan, the strong, independent woman she wanted to emulate. Or the workplace leadership and development program and coaching that showed her who was blocking her manifesting the wealth she so desired. In our house, it was the woman I had known for 25 years. Warm, caring, compassionate. The moment she walked out, the echo chamber effect came in. The contradiction was constant. She no longer wanted the marriage, yet she still reached for the comfort of everyday connection. She no longer wanted the life we had built, yet she behaved in ways that kept the bond alive. I responded to the version of her that appeared in those private moments, not the version shaped by ideology and the identity she was trying to perform. The instability that followed was not one-sided. She could not let go. Neither could I. Both of us were caught between emotional truth and the pressure of the coaching narrative that told her to push forward, regardless of the damage left behind. The new partner as psychological shortcut. In late August, she told me she was living in limbo. I recognized what that meant before she admitted it. She had met someone new. This was the moment where everything shifted. The coldness of the phone call. She knew I was struggling with depression, knew I had agoraphobia, basically living in a 4MX 5M box. Yet she was the one living in limbo. The sign was clear. Her emotional world had been clinging to the familiar connection with me. Her ideological world had been pulling her away. A new partner brought relief. He offered a clean context where the new identity could exist without challenge. He did not know the contradictions. He did not know the history. He did not carry any part of the emotional truth that had kept her oscillating for months. He offered validation that made the new identity feel legitimate. This new relationship removed the internal fight between her feelings and her ideology. It gave her a world where the mindset shift could finally take root. This is why the oscillation stopped so abruptly. She had found a setting where both parts of her could align, but only by leaving the emotional reality of our history behind. Erasure as the final step. Once she had a new partner and a new narrative, she needed to remove anything that threatened the stability of the new identity. That included me. The freeze-out that followed was not personal in the emotional sense. It was structural. She could not become the woman she believed she was becoming while keeping any connection to the life she had left. The pattern became unmistakable. The ghosting. The practical messages without warmth. The secrecy around her move. The hiding of the new relationship. The way she co-opted the children into silence. Her father's sudden distancing after Canada. These behaviors were not signs of confidence. They were signs of fragility. They revealed a person who could not tolerate reminders of the emotional self she once was. When someone builds an identity out of borrowed philosophies, manifesting ideals, and coaching slogans, they must remove anyone who remembers who they used to be. Survival of the new narrative depends on erasing the past. That is how two people who shared a life for 25 years become strangers. Not because the past was insignificant, but because I was the only one who remembered the real version of her. The real story of the second breakup. The second breakup was not about resentment, incompatibility, or a long decline. It was about the mismatch between rapid cognitive change and slow emotional processing. It was about the acceleration produced by NLP, Neuro Semantics, integral leadership, and manifesting culture. It was about the instability that follows when someone tries to rebuild themselves at a pace the human psyche cannot keep up with. What happened between May 2022 and January 2024 was the quiet collapse created by an ideology that promises fast transformation without acknowledging the emotional wreckage. It shows the cost of pushing yourself to live at the pace of a mindset rather than the pace of emotional truth. It reveals how easily borrowed identities can fracture someone from the inside out. Mindset can change instantly. Emotion cannot. When someone tries to force the two to match, they do not grow. They crack. And they crack the people around them.